Hey, what is up, everybody? What is going on? Chana Deer Techno Dad here, special guest today. Q,
Hey,
Mr.
hey,
Stop the Fomo. What is up, buddy? How are you?
all is good. Another day of HDMI 2.1 nightmares, huh?
Yeah, another day, another night, another week, another month. I know. I made that video. What is it now? 5 months ago, telling people just not to buy a TV for a
Right,
new
right.
gaming
Don't
console.
upgrade.
Don't do it, as the thumbnail said, because pretty much it's just like why are you gonna put yourself through that hassle? But let's say what's up. What's up, Adir? How are you doing? Blue, what's up? Kanga is in the house. Only 40 gigabytes. Vizio lied. C9 leaves me with absolutely no FOMO at all. You hear that? If you have a 2019 LG TV, you have no FOMO.
Yeah.
They don't have you, bro. They don't have you.
And that was the first thing I said when we found out about the LG C10. I said, hey, if you could find a C9, why not? It's
Mhm.
even brighter. Forget the 2.1 48. It's actually a brighter TV. Yeah, slight dark crushing, right? But it's a great TV still, you know. We've kind of hit that maturity on the OLED. There's not going to be a lot of improvements regardless. Even next year is what, C1's coming out. I don't expect anything big.
I'm so busy with trying to get everything done here and all that kind of stuff. What's going on with the C1? Why don't you give everybody the lowdown before
Other
we
than the
jump in?
name?
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, on the manufacturing side, so LG has been investing a lot, not in improving the OLED as much as reducing the price, because they know that they've pretty much hit the limits of performance. The fact that the C9 is brighter than the C10, they're fine-tuning shadow detail, motion. It's not gonna get any brighter, but they could do other things, right? Maybe slightly better color volume, but more importantly, they're moving to a new manufacturing process, not just to lower the price, but get more consistent, uh, what they call
Consistency?
manufacturing QC, right? Quality
Oh, okay.
control, right? Better yields. Because a lot of people, even last year, complained of banding, right? All types of
Sure.
BSE, right? And by focusing on that, they'll have less returns, less complaints. So on their side, they'll make more money. Less returns is good. Less warranty claims are good, and the MSRPs will be cheaper. So the image quality will stay the same because no one's complaining that it looks bad. No one says, "Hey, it looks so terrible," and it can't get brighter. So more of the same, just cheaper.
That's actually pretty awesome, man. Sorry, I had to
I
send my
thought it
mom a text.
was
Tell her I'm live. Hey, yeah, yeah, I sent you the text. We're live right now, so I'll you just watch. I'll talk to you later, okay? All right, love you. Bye. No, dude, I've been calling my mom every day because since she tested positive for COVID.
Oh, no.
So she's 73, right?
Right.
47, yeah, 73.
The
So
vaccine couldn't come out any sooner, huh? That's perfect. Is she in line
I
for it?
mean, I dude, I mean, this all just happened.
Oh, wow.
So
Right.
yeah, like I found out like randomly Saturday night. Um, so
At least she got tested. Did she, like, someone say, "Hey, I'm sorry, I got it. I touched you.
no,
Now you
she
go."
no man, she was doing some stupid stuff.
It's like
She was doing
raving. The
stupid
senior
shit.
citizen
No,
rave.
that was me back in 2001. No, she was doing some stupid ass shit, and she really shouldn't have done that. So, I mean, she's gonna be watching now, so let's not get
Right.
all crazy about it. But yeah, a week after she went to some get together that she
Right.
had like she drove some people, and then
Right.
all of a
Right.
sudden she can't taste anything. So
Oh,
and she
no.
got like tested and got her positive result a day later, and then so that was last week.
Hmm.
Last week, yeah. So yeah. So I've been trying to call her all the time. She's like, "Oh, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm live again. Just come on through." So anyway, back to the C1. So they want to get a. Are we going to see like something in between the C9 and the C10 in the C1? We're going to get like a little bit more brightness. What do you think?
It's, you know what? It's hard to say because I see what they're doing. And this is just my speculation, but
Thanks,
the
Kinga.
the biggest thing with OLEDs is they have a finite
Thank you.
life. Even if you don't get
Yeah.
burned out, right? After 20 years, let's say, take an extreme, it's going to reduce in brightness, but it's cumulative. So if you don't turn on your OLED for 20 years, okay, it retains brightness. But if you watch 24/7, after 10 years, it'll be dimmer. And by making it kind of a little bit dimmer, it gives that longer life of the entire OLED. And that's what they're trying to do. So I don't know if it's burning as much as just trying to
Mm,
make it last longer before its half-life. Like, how long does it
right.
go before it loses 20% of
I
its bright
mean, where are the days when the TVs just actually last? Like
CRTs?
more than 5 years. Like what is going on here? I mean,
Yeah.
even now I know a lot, and I've said it like I just really don't like Samsung, but I had some awesome Samsung
Mhm.
LED LCD TVs back in like 2005, 2006, 2008, you know? That's all I was buying. And then I went back to plasma after those ones, with the Panasonic.
Right.
But like it seems to me like these things are just like throwaway.
And they're
Like
expensive. I mean, if it's
yeah, right?
$99, you throw it away or whatever, but these are like $1,000 TVs that they assume you're gonna replace it in 2 or 3 years. Like, oh my gosh, that's worse than an iPhone.
That's a lot. So thank you Capono and Kanga. Yeah, I'll never buy a Samsung again. And somebody said money has to be made. Right. They need to sell you something next year. And that's
Mhm.
why like, I think 2019 Samsung 8K TVs had one HDMI 2.1 port. It's port number 4. And what I learned from my boy Andrew Edwards, they don't even label it. He's texting me. He's like, "Hey, which HDMI is the 2.1?" I'm like, "Dude, don't you know you're Mr. Tech Man?" And he's like, "I'm asking you. You're the master of TVs." I was like, "Okay."
You
So,
you you know, you bring up a good point, and this is across all the models because I remember Sony X900H, yeah, we're gonna upgrade it, and the number one question was, "So which port's it gonna be?" And I'm like, that's a good question. Sony wouldn't tell you. They're like, "We'll let you know when the update comes." Like, what the it's like, really?
assholes,
It's like,
assholes. Yeah.
why would you not tell people up front? And I think part of it is they don't know. It just
Mhm.
is shocking, but why would you hide that? It's not like it's a trade secret.
Okay. They don't know. Let's hold on to that phrase. They don't know. Okay. We'll bring that up in a little bit. So again, they need to sell something new the next year. So 2020 Samsung TVs, one HDMI 2.1 port. We've gone from one in 2019. Can we get two in 2020? Or are they waiting to put two in next year? I mean,
Or maybe one.
I would love to think that they would put all four HDMI 2.1 ports next year, but who knows? I mean,
Mhm.
again, they need to sell you something next year, right?
Well, it's
Right? Darian's 100% right. Oh, dude, you got your plasma? Nice. Nice. Ours actually broke. That's why I moved over to OLED, but
ours
yeah, I
did
had the
too.
VT60. That thing was like inky black, even just 1080p.
Mhm.
1080p.
I had
Oh,
the what's it called? The Pioneer Kuro.
the
It
Kuro, yeah.
finally died this year, and we had it since
Really?
2006. It just gave up the
Dude,
ghost.
dude, you know what's still at my mom's house that's still working and there's still no burn-in? 2002 Fujitsu Plasma.
Oh, the Fujitsus were the best. I remember
Yeah,
that. I
yeah,
couldn't find them anywhere. They were
dude,
expensive. I remember that. Yep.
$12,000. 12,000, 50-inch, 720p.
50-inch. Wow.
It's still there, hanging in her bedroom.
Yeah, now for 12 grand, you gotta go with like one of those nice Sony ones that Youth Man has at his place hanging maybe.
Oh, the projector?
The projectors, right? At 12,000, you gotta go with that nice
Mhm.
4K projectors.
Like native 4K.
Native
Yeah.
4K,
It
yeah,
did.
none of
Yeah,
that
I
shift.
think he has one of those JVCs, the
Yeah,
NX7.
yeah,
Yeah.
those 7, 8,000. Absolutely.
Yeah, those things are great. Those things are great. But yeah, like, and it's funny too, because like they told us it was gonna die in like 8, 9 years, and there's gonna be like massive burn in. All she does is watches the news. So there's like
Yeah.
tickers running all
CNN.
and there's like nothing on that TV. I turned it on last year. I was there for NAM, which is the music trade show in
Mhm.
January. Yeah, like literally right after CES, I got home. Two days here in Mammoth, and then I went down to LA for NAMM for like 3-4 days.
I love that.
Yeah, and so when I was there, I was just like, "Is this TV still working?" She's like, "Yeah," and I turned it on. I was like, "Oh, there it is.
Wow.
There it is." Yeah, no. So yeah, it's kind of one of those weird things. But
Well, Samsung, I think, is incredibly well, they're very confident that they'll sell anything no matter how they spec it because their marketing is so incredible. Like this year, let's look at the numbers. They are not just number one, they outsold everyone by such a large margin,
mm.
despite what we say on YouTube and even reviewers like, you know what? Yeah, the
Well,
Samsung's fine, it's so
I mean,
expensive.
they sell everywhere. Walmart,
Mhm,
Target,
mhm.
Costco. So if you're everywhere, and you have this like, I mean, their marketing is a bit aggressive. Let's be real.
Unbelievable. Yeah,
Like even with their phones like this versus an iPhone, like they totally rip on Apple. It's hilarious in the ads. Like so
mhm.
they are really really sorry, I'm getting comments on other videos as we speak. Picture quality for projectors, how good can it be? Actually, Capono, the JVC projectors, take a look at them, man. They're pretty awesome. They're pretty awesome. So all right, what did I say we were going to come back to? They don't know.
They don't know.
They don't know. So
It's story of Vizio's life.
I was on a call with the, 5 or 6 other influencers, channels that are way larger than mine.
Right.
I was the only one that actually does a lot of TVs. Like there are other tech channels that do TVs and, here and there. Mostly it's like, phones and this and that. So their guy was, I was like, look, there's a lot of confusion. Which HDMI 2.1 ports are on the OLED?
So you're talking to the Vizio rep. This is Vizio.
There's like 3 Vizio reps there, 2 from the marketing firm, the main guy giving the presentation, lady doing the soundbar stuff afterward, and like 7 or 8 influencers, right,
Mhm.
including myself. And so he says, yeah, HDMI ports 2 and 3 are full bandwidth, can support 4K 120, 48 gigabits per second. HDMI 1 and 4 capped at 40 gigabits per second, but also HDMI 2.1. So going back to what you told me, and in your other video recently, what is it? Not OEM, it's the
ODM,
ODM.
original design manufacturing, as opposed to original equipment manufacturer.
Yeah. So what you said was, okay, Vizio doesn't make any of this stuff. They just pick up parts off the shelf and
They don't even
slap
do
it
that.
together.
They don't even do that.
They don't even do that. Okay, what happens? You tell me.
If
Tell
they were an
us.
OEM, let's just say Apple uses OEMs. Apple will specifically spec, okay, I want you to use this processor by this brand, this wire from this company. They will list every supplier, every part, every SKU that goes into that Apple and the manufacturing process that needs to be done. So every step has been predefined, and then they look at the yield. Okay, this passes the test. You know how to make an Apple phone. You could be our OEM. ODM, if you were to make a phone ODM style, you'd call up the guy that makes Apple phones, right? So he makes Apple phone. He knows how to make phones. You say, hey, can you make me a phone that looks like Apple, but not quite? And while you're at it, I want a smaller megapixel camera because it's too expensive and make it blue. And I don't need 5G. And they're like, okay, and how much do you want to sell it for? Well, make it as cheap as possible. So I leave it to them because I'm not in the engineering business, but I do know I want to sell phones. And so all they tell me is, okay, we'll do this for you. Minimum order. We'll make 10,000 phones. It's going to be, I don't know, $1 million, whatever, right? I write them the check. They start the tooling. They make the phones. They know how to make phones. And it's up to them to do whatever they want as long as they meet my minimum specs, which was it's got to be silver, kind of look like an iPhone, blah, blah,
Right.
blah. And the price, the per unit price must be this much. So we know that Vizio is a budget company, right? They're selling to a certain price. So they're going to say, first thing is, I need to sell at this price. So I need you to sell it to me at this price.
Ah, okay.
Now, given that price, you need to include 1, 2, 3, 4. And so they will try to build it at that price and include those 1, 2, 3, 4. But it's up to them how they cut corners. It's not
Mhm.
Vizio can care less where they cut the corners,
So
and
it's
that's
the
why
ODM, the person that's
yeah,
actually manufacturing the product is
they
going to
will. It's
cut
their
whatever corners they want,
yes.
not whatever corners Vizio or the
No.
company hiring them want. Okay.
Now Vizio could give a minimums like, hey, make sure you use this glass from LG Display. Hey, we're making an OLED. Do whatever you want with everything else, but you have to use LG Display OLED. Don't pull out some cheap ass Chinese manufacturer that hasn't sold a TV in the US yet. Use the LG Display, and they'll be like, okay, we'll buy from LG. But the cost is creeping up now. You told us to do this budget. You want us to use this high-end HDMI chip? They're like, no, no. Do whatever you want with HDMI. Just make sure it's 2.1 capable. And that I think is where maybe the misunderstanding could have been because
Mm.
when you hear
Mhm.
HDMI 2.1, if it wasn't for LG this year, I didn't even know you could cap it at 40. Everyone
Right.
just assumed it's 48, and suddenly there's a 40. So when
Right.
this was all being done, I bet you Vizio just assumed there's only one HDMI, and that's 48. And then out of
Mhm.
the blue, there's a 40, and then suddenly Sony's a 32. Is there a 32 chip
Mm.
now? Who knows, right?
Wow.
So there are gradients of HDMI 2.1 capping.
So so I was talking to Phil Jones. Do you know who Phil Jones is? I'm
Yeah,
sure you
you
do.
had him on many times on your channel. I love the guy. He's
That's
the
right. You
Sound
got if
United guy, right?
That's right. If you guys don't know who Philip Jones, he is the global like head of training for Sound United. Sound United is the company that owns Denon, Marantz, Polk Audio, Definitive Technology, Class A, B&W. They just recently acquired
That's right.
B&W speakers.
Awesome.
So like, there's a few more which I totally am like flaking on. So he's the global trainer, right? And then they have a nice little YouTube channel that he makes videos for, Sound United Training or whatever. Anyway, I was talking to him on Sunday. I was like, look, I have a call with the tech dude from Vizio on Monday. That was yesterday, right? Today's Tuesday.
Mhm.
So what question should I ask him about this 2.1 thing? Because this is what we're seeing. And so he's saying, okay, um, well, it sounds like Vizio just doesn't know, right? What what the ODM is doing. And that's just goes along with what you're saying here.
Mhm.
And what he said was just because people put HDMI 2.1, it doesn't mean that TV or AV receiver or whatever, that device has to have all the features of HDMI 2.1. If it has just a few features of HDMI 2.1, whether it's just eARC or VRR or ALLM or quick media switching or whatever it's called, they can consider that HDMI 2.1. So we
Ooh.
know from Vincent's test, Vincent HDTV test, he recorded from HDMI 2 and 3, the ports on the back of the OLED labeled 4K 120, that those were capped at 40 gigabits per second. 4 lanes, 10 gigabits per second.
And let me jump in.
Yeah,
The device he used to, I guess, inspect it is the Meridio like 7 gen device. That thing is over $5,000. So it's not like consumers could go to their Radio Shack or Home Depot and pick out a little measuring tool for $10 and check it out. If Vincent didn't do that, so I have to give him credit. How many people have a $5,000 device or some software to read the EDID the way he can? And he did it. It was a huge favor to the consumers and to influencers and reviewers to go, wait a minute, what's happening
something's
here?
wrong.
Yeah, but
Something
short of
is
that,
wrong.
I never would have known. And we would
Right.
just and Vizio may never have known. They could have just kept on doing this narrative of 48 and never would have known
And
because they
and
spoke
that's the
you,
thing.
they don't know.
Even today or even yesterday, that tech guy, I was like, okay, so I was having power issues,
Mhm.
right? The OLED kept turning off. Okay. And I'm just like, what the heck? So I was telling FOMO backstage, when I get a TV into review, I want to calibrate it before I give my review, my thoughts on the picture quality, because, I want the TV to be the best it can be. of course, a lot of people aren't going to calibrate, but if I want to judge it at like a level where I'm nitpicking details, then it's got to be like, reference quality, picture, and luminance, right? So before I calibrate, I got to run it for 100 to 200 hours. So I've made a 12-hour video that changes colors, black to white, red, green, cyan, magenta, yellow. And I put the Vizio OLED on the dining table, and I, went to the YouTube app on the TV and hit play. About an hour goes by. I walk over. I'm like, TV's off. And I'm like, is this a screensaver? I'm like, no, I actually had to press power. I'm like, what's going on? So I played it again. Come back around an hour later, it's off. I'm like, what is going on? So I was like, how am I going to, without sitting in front of the TV for, Lord knows how long, how am I going to test this and see how, so I was like, you know what? Voodoo. Let's go to Voodoo. Because what happens when you turn off the TV or stop a Voodoo video? If you go to resume, it tells you where you left off.
Oh,
right?
smart. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Right?
The kid knows something. Yeah.
I didn't even think of that.
So I went to Voodoo. I started a movie and then left it alone. I come back. It's turned off. Okay. I went back into resume. Oh, hour and a half. 2-hour movie. It got through an hour and a half. Okay. Did it again. Different movie. 15 minutes. Did it again. 12 minutes. So this thing is just turning off at random situations. So we did this power cycling thing. And so far after that seems to work. Right. And I asked him, I'm like, okay, so a lot of people have been,
No, but what's power cycling? Just
okay. So you unplug the TV, wait like 30 seconds. He said, wait a little bit. So I would say wait 30 seconds and then, press and hold the power button he just said for like 10 to 15 seconds. It's like, okay, there's no beep or anything. There's no visual cue.
while it's off.
While it's off, press and hold the power button on the back of the TV and then wait another minute or so, plug it in and see what happens. So after that he said that resets, God, there's something that they use to like charge stuff. So that all that
the capacitors or whatever.
The capacitors, right? The capacitors are just drained. So when you do that, you drain the capacitors. So then now it's been working without issues, right? Power wise. And I asked him, I was like, okay, I've heard reports of, I know my boy Jolster from Jolster G4K.
Good guy.
He said that his YouTube channel, he bought it like about a month ago, and he's having problems every time the TV is off for like a day or two. He has to literally unplug it and plug it back in for it to turn on. So I asked the tech guy, and he's like, "Oh, you have them do the same thing that we just did, and that should, take care of the issue." I was like, "Okay." So, then I was like, "Okay, what do you know about HDMI ports?" And he's like, "Oh, on the TV." On the OLED, I was like, yeah. He's like, oh, yeah. Well, what do you need to know? I was like, okay, which ports are HDMI 2.1 on the TV? Take a wild guess what he said.
All of them?
Yeah. The exact same thing. And I was like, look, man, I can get 4K 120 on ports 2 and 3, but I can't on 1 and 4. And he said, oh, well, 4K 120 is only for HDMI ports 2 and 3.
Okay.
And I'm like, but if they're capped at 40 gigabits per second and HDMI 2.1, then they'll be exactly like what's on the, LG C10. So why would I not get 4K 120 on the Xbox? I'm like, it looks like it's capped at 4K 60. He's like, yeah, it is. And then so I'm like, so isn't that just an HDMI 2.0B port? And he's like, well, it's technically HDMI 2.1. So like, they are really like double down on this, and it's really strange because Vincent tested 4 lanes, 10 gigabits per second. Now, if it was 48, it would be 4 lanes, 12 gigabits per second, right? 12 times 4, 48.
Yeah.
Right? Full bandwidth. It's not. It's 40 gigabits per second for HDMI 2 and 3 and HDMI 1 and 4. Whatever you want to, however they want to say it, I'll tell you guys right now, they act like HDMI 2.0B ports. So
Yeah.
that's it. That's it. And that's from testing it with the Xbox Series X.
Yeah,
Right.
and
That's the only device
when
I
we
have.
say they act like it won't even receive the signal. If you
Correct.
put in anything beyond 18 gigabits per second, which would be like 4K, 120, anything, right? Nothing, black screen or worse.
It won't work.
Yep.
It won't work. However, 4K 120 HDR VRR variable refresh rate on HDMI 2 and 3 doesn't work.
Yeah.
4K 60 HDR variable refresh rate HDMI 1 and 4 works perfectly fine. Oh, you guys, this is the kind of stuff that is just like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So I'm trying to read through the comments here real quickly. It's like discharging the caps, yeah, or the memory, the PCB, right? Okay. Computers had that feature for CMOS, yep.
Exactly.
What is this? Your video on Blu-ray players helped me decide. Oh, let's put you up on the screen here. Where was that? Who's that? Simulator Studio. Where is that? Oh, boom. Well, I hope you like the Panasonic 420. I mean, I like 420 either way, whether it's Panasonic or just being in California. Oh, damn it. There we go. I'm glad I could help Simulator Studio. People ask me all the time, Xbox Series X or PS5 as a Blu-ray 4K Blu-ray player, or should they get something else? I'm like, look, if you want to save some money, go spend $200 on the Panasonic UB420 and then get the digital version of the PS5.
Yep.
Way better. It's going to be way better. And if you really want Dolby Vision, go with the UB820 because both the Xbox and the PlayStation 5 cannot do that. So if you want to get the most out of it, if you have a projector, go with the Panasonic UB420, definitely. But yeah. One lie to cover another lie shakes my head. They're not 2.1 ports. You can't even get 444 and HDR together on 1 and 4 ports with the PS5. Yeah. Steve, man, I find they are pitching something that they don't even know what they are talking about at the stores, electronic stores, and just trying to sell you on something and even lie about the information. Funny thing on my Sony A88, why? I can't even say that like right the first time. Sony A8H OLED review video. Someone commented saying, so the guy at Best Buy told me this. He said, which ports are 4K 120 on this Sony OLED? I'm like, none of them. And he responds back, really? The guy at Best Buy told me that this has HDMI 2.1 ports. I'm like, no Sony OLED has HDMI 2.1 ports at all.
Nope.
So, Steve, that's just one of the situations. eARC is not even working. I don't know, Fulu. Hey, FOMO.
eARC on which TV? All of them?
I would imagine he's talking about the
Vizio?
the Vizio. I haven't tested it yet. That's actually going to be my next video about the TV. We all want 444 for sure. For sure. Wow. Exactly, Syed. Wow. Oh, and legally it would be not so much lying to you, but just stretching the truth dramatically. Yep. And kids, this is why you buy an LG, not a Vizio. I mean, honestly, the official apology tour reaction. Yeah, no, seriously. And I made a video saying I was wrong and I was 100% right.
I know you have to go back. I was right and not wrong.
Oh man.
Well, and that's another thing is speaking of that, right? So if you look at in June, sometime in June when they launched the Vizio OLED, Vincent and I were so excited. Hey, this press release is 48, but I noticed, wait a minute, it's all verbal, just like with you. But they never put it on paper. So I'm thinking, interesting.
Is that how you get through lying to consumers? Is that the loophole? You just don't put it in writing?
I could not find the numbers 48 anywhere from any maker, just the features, very generic. But then when they tell you it's 48, and they said it at the press release. And if you look at all the various outlets, they would print 48 because that's what they heard. but it's never
Mhm.
said. So I'm thinking,
Yeah,
interesting.
interesting, yeah.
Mhm.
So, do you think this can be corrected in a software side? Unfortunately, no.
I don't
If
think
it's not
so.
an HDMI 2.1 port, like the physical hardware port, can't be done, right?
Oh, okay, so the 40 to 48, it sounds like it's a chip limitation. It's not like they hamstrung it to 40 and then later they'll release the 48. I think it comes as a 48 or 40, and they just got hit with a cheaper chip. They
Mhm.
got the cheaper 40 gig. But I did ask them. I went on Twitter and I think they haven't responded, and I know why. They're like, does this question even make sense to any of you? So they are going back to their engineers and go, guys, is this a problem? And their engineers will be like, ooh, oh, that could be a problem.
Yeah.
And so normally they're very quick with their response, but if their customer service rep can't respond, it's because they're probably going back to the drawing board and calling their suppliers saying, guys, is it really a 40? Because they know what they said during the launch, and they said 48, and we're saying, "Well, Vincent has the little EDID data, and
Yeah.
it says 40, so either you guys can do a firmware update or
Mhm.
not." And I'm waiting for the not, but
I
hey,
mean, whether we have, something like specific to show that or not, like Xbox Series X, 4K TV detail screen, HDMI 1 and 4, we get a X on the 120 hertz gaming. On HDMI 2 and 3, it supports it. So right then and there, whether it's 48 or 40,
can't tell.
yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't
I
matter.
mean, it would seem from that information that HDMI ports 2 and 3 are at very minimum 40, and HDMI 1 and 4 are just not HDMI 2.1 ports.
Right.
Like that's exactly what that, data that data says,
Well, you bring up a good point. For all practical purposes, it really doesn't matter. Right? It's not like the consumers, quote unquote, got screwed. However, it is a misrepresentation in the sense that a lot of people were excited about the Vizio
Mhm.
because it was
Yeah.
48 and not like they would ever use it. Maybe, maybe not. But if you read a lot of the forums and the chats, the Vizio fans were just like, yes, we did something better than LG. And that's
Right.
principle right
Right. Right. And look. So even at 8.99, it's still not a good deal. So like when the main feature that I like about this OLED is that it's the only OLED sold in the United States that supports both Dolby Vision and HDR10 plus.
Right,
And I
right.
think that was one of the biggest features that Vizio isn't even talking about. Um,
They
as
don't know
like
what they don't know. Maybe they don't even know
they
HDR10
don't know
plus.
what they have. Like they don't know what they have is what it seems like. And
ODM,
they're just running with what they're being told to say
right.
without um
I think the ODM stuck it in there and didn't even tell them, like, "Oh, you know what? Here, we'll just give you HDR10 plus." Like, "Okay, we'll just include that in our literature," but because they didn't design it, it wasn't part of their marketing,
I
right?
mean, if you go to their website, almost all of the 2020 Vizio TVs support all four major formats of HDR, which is
Mhm.
what like I want in my LG, but LG, went with Dolby Vision. Samsung and Panasonic were like, well, screw Dolby Vision.
Mhm.
We'll make our own HDR10 plus, because they all hate each other, right?
Right.
Samsung hates
Samsung.
LG or whatever. I don't know, but it seems that way. It just seems that way. So LG will never support HDR10 plus. Samsung will never support Dolby Vision. So it's like, and then going back to my video 5 months ago, don't buy a TV for a next gen gaming console until we know what's up. A bunch of people bought Samsungs, and then like a month ago, Microsoft and Dolby announced that they're going to have in-game Dolby Vision. So it effectively making all Samsung TVs that were bought this year for an Xbox Series X
Mhm.
obsolete, or just not having a feature that would probably be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I stand by, and somebody just commented on the video saying, well, this didn't age well. I'm like, how? How do you say it didn't age well? I'm like, I think he was talking about no 4K 120. And let's be real, like
Mhm.
it's still checkerboarded. It's not a native 4K 120 HDR. If what is it? You have the graphics card, don't you? Or did you get one?
Yeah, the RTX 3090.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That big, what, 1400 is the retail?
Yes, well, I paid a bit more than that because I had to go for the eBay special.
Oh gosh.
behind the parking lot of the Home Depot, just because I had to. How am I going to test 8K, right? I mean, there's no way to test unless you get the 3090 or
Yeah.
at least the 3080 just to get a signal out there, right? But at the end of the day, um, it's DLSS, Cyberpunk, right? They have to find a way to scale it up. It is 8K is hard to do, and 4K 120 is hard to do. It's processor intensive, and these things are
Right.
$500 for the entire console. They don't have the horsepower to run
Right. Right.
native
So,
4K
so
120.
I think that's what you know, the comment was about. And even though we are getting a 4K 120 signal, that's what the TV is seeing. That's what the AVR is seeing. Um, maybe that is what it's seeing, but are we getting that? Is the console actually generating that natively? That
Right.
is
There you go.
no. That is a no. That is a no.
It looks
Sorry.
good. It looks
Sorry
good.
to ruin. I mean, I went back and forth, right, on my C9 OLED. You know, plugged both consoles into HDMI 1 and HDMI 3 and played rounds of Call of Duty. I literally would play on Nuketown and played on the Xbox, quit out of it, play on the PlayStation 5, go back to the Xbox, play the same level over and over. And 4K 120, cool. Would I notice it in the games I'm playing? No.
Mhm.
Because all I'm doing is running around shooting shit. Like and then people are asking, like, "Oh, well, this has better graphics." I have no idea unless I stop and I'm looking at the tire tread or the tank tread,
There you go.
in a certain level that I'm ducking behind, and I'm like, "Oh, that looks cool," for like maybe a second, 2 seconds. Oh, brr, 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 but I'm just brr,
Mhm.
brr, brr, like I'm just running around. Like, are you even going to notice this? And that's what I've concluded is that I don't. I don't unless I'm like if you're playing a different type of game, 3D like world full open world, like the Miles Morales or something like that, definitely you're gonna see differences.
You bring up a good point in that Digital Foundry attempted that comparison, right, with Valhalla. They did a pixel peeping test where they really went into the resolution between a PC game card, 2060, 2070 Super, and so forth, and compared it to the PS5. And they found, the PS5 actually had better resolution than the PC cards. It's equivalent to a 2070 Super, which is pretty impressive given what you have. But there's no way anyone could have told that that's the difference unless you have the special software that Digital Foundry has to compare it frame by frame, resolution. And they're like, it's up to the developers. The developers chose to give the PS5 its best, and then the PCs was an afterthought version because the graphics was just slightly slower frame rate and slightly worse at their best resolution. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And at the end of the day, most consumers at 4K 120, the dynamic scaling, 1080p to 4K, it looks so good anyway. Most people don't care. I thought Miles Morales looked great, and I have no idea how they got there, but it at 4K 60 on all the TVs, it looked phenomenal.
And that's what I was hoping for. I know in the last generation Xbox One X, they were like, "Oh, it's gonna be, we're gonna get solid 4K 60," and we kind of got it in some games, and it would reach up to 60 and then go back down.
Yeah.
Um, sorry. But now everything is solid 4K 60, and
Mhm.
I'm totally cool with that. And I also did 4K 120, and then I went played the same level multiplayer Call of Duty, back to 60. And I do notice a little bit of blur when I'm pulling up, the gut like that, or
This is
sliding
on the
around
Series
the corner
X? On the
on
Series X or the
on
PlayStation?
Series X, on
Okay.
Series
Yeah.
X.
Yeah.
So like really I don't think you're missing much. If you
Mhm.
wanna have it and you think it's cool, cool. I guess it just depends on, like, what kinda game you're playing. If it's a lot slower, slower paced, meaning, then definitely if you wanna do that, go ahead and do that. It's your money, do whatever you like. Arez EMS, has a weird issue. So this like black screen, like my LG will do it all the time. I'll get that no signal thing and then it'll pop back on. So it's just kind of one of those things that always kind of happens. It's kind of weird. This is what happens when everyone rushes. Yeah. rushes the line without doing a problem. This is like, I really wish we went back to the days of, hey, my TV's here. It's released. It has all the features that they promised. And they only use firmware updates to fix bugs, not to add features. Because what happens? You know what happens when they add features? What happens? Shit breaks.
Yep.
Something else breaks.
Yeah, that's something else. Okay, so none of these consoles were even available for testing. None of the chips were available for testing when they released it. They released all these HDMI 2.1 chips without testing it with any available device because there was no Denon and Marantz, there was no Series X to test it with. Everything was designed months before the release of any of these other devices. Compatibility, confirmation, verification, impossible. Now they're starting to verify it for 2022. I think it's even too late for 2021, honestly,
Yeah, right.
right? Because we're still seeing issues because both the Series X and the PlayStation 5, we're discovering they're using different 2.1 chips, right? The what is it? The PS5 can send a signal to the AVRs, but the Series X can't. So they're using different processing of the 2.1 signal. No one even knew this was possible. We just assumed it's one
Right.
standard.
Right.
Apparently not.
And then when I did it, and I was successfully able to get the PS5 through the Marantz into the LG that I have, you can see it says FRL 32 gigabits per second. So is it capped at 32 gigabits per second? Or, what is it? We don't know. We don't know. Oh, look at this. No clue how I got here, but I'm in awe. Good info. Oh, thank you, Ron Star. Austin the Frost asked, did the OLED miss out on FreeSync Premium? Also, yes. Actually, when I was creating an ad for Vizio, because they sponsored a video or whatever, I had them look at the ad and they're like, oh, this slide over here, can we change that out? Here's an updated one, because it said that the Vizio OLED did support FreeSync Premium, but it doesn't. They're waiting to get that from whoever is it NVIDIA or is it no?
FreeSync is AMD.
AMD. So G-Sync is NVIDIA, right?
So let's talk about that real quick.
Okay.
There's rumors that it may never get FreeSync certified. We don't know. So they're right now they're just working on VRR, and that's why they told you to take that off. If they knew they would get it eventually, just like Sony, you would say, "Hey, we'll get it eventually." The fear is they may never get FreeSync certified, but they will get VRR. Even though VRR is not, I don't think it's working at 4K 120 right now. It isn't, but they expect to get it working at some point, but they may never get FreeSync working at 4K 120. Maybe 4K 60, but at this point, there's a lot of people saying, just be happy you got VRR. That FreeSync thing may or may not happen for the OLED. Now, for the P Quantum X, the P series, FreeSync appears to be happening, but not for the OLED.
Right. So, I mean, I would say wait on buying a TV. I would say wait on buying a TV.
Now, for gaming, yeah.
Like, I have the Zapidi 4K player, so I've actually been playing 4K content. So like, it's pretty messed up on my dining table. I'm just sitting there with this 55-inch Vizio OLED and trying to get this Zapidi player working as it should. And 4K HDR content doesn't look bad on there. There are maybe some issues with like, motion handling here and there. So I saw a question up there in the chat. Should I return my Vizio OLED for an LG C10? What do you think? I'll give my answer. What do you think?
Well, why did you buy the Vizio OLED? If it was because you're saving money, you still saved money. And for HDR TV watching, Netflix, I found it to be fine. If you're just watching movies, this is not the issue we're discussing. We're talking about gaming features. Now, if gaming is your thing, LG C10 is the most full-featured working TV for gaming. They've delivered pretty much everything they've promised to the highest degree possible compared to anyone else. So the answer is yes, if you take gaming seriously. But if it's just for watching HDR and you enjoy it right now, I don't think there's a reason to exchange it.
Yeah. If you got the 55-inch for $900, like, I mean, I would probably hang on to it, and hope they fix whatever problems. But for the most part, like, you're getting an OLED for 250 more than a TCL 6 series.
Mhm.
You're getting an OLED for $100 more than a Hisense H9G.
Yeah.
So like that's kind of huge in that aspect.
Yep.
Are there problems with it? Yes. Will Vizio fix them? We don't know. That's really kind of the thing. And so when you do like think about, you know, the $200 price difference, that's up to you. You
Mhm.
know, it's not like I say in every TV review video or like no, my usual like what to look for when buying a TV. I always tell everybody, you're never going to find the perfect TV that does everything right, no matter you pay $500 or $30,000. It's still there's still going to be problems. It's
And
just the way it is. Yeah.
and let's talk about Samsung. Yeah, I don't want to just hammer on Vizio like the only one out there. Samsung still hasn't figured out EARC, EARC.
2019, they promised their customers in 2019 they would get an eARC update, and that has yet to happen.
Yeah,
Has yet to happen.
TCL got it first. They updated to ERC before Samsung and Samsung 2020 TVs. Guess what? ERC, not a guarantee. I mean, it's there, but it's not working well. Like I have the Sony soundbar that I picked up Black Friday to test ERC, and I was telling you, right? I plugged into my Q900 TS. This is their $5,000 flagship. I'm getting dropped Atmos, and it just defaults down to regular ARC, right? Lossy ARC, because the EARC, there are parts where it's just muted briefly, but that doesn't happen on my other two TVs that are also ERC, the Sony X900H and the LG C10 that works fine with the
Mhm.
Sony soundbar, but not the Q900 TS. It comes and it goes. Sometimes it's lossy Atmos, sometimes it isn't. And I was like, okay, Samsung still hasn't figured it out. How hard could this be for their flagship? So it's not just Vizio struggling with what we think is new technology. ARC has been around, what, 3 years now? It's a struggle for everyone.
Yeah. No, definitely. Definitely. And then Capono, Sony missed out this year on gamers. I really think Sony that was a misstep. They should have at least added HDMI 2.1 and 4K 120 on their A8H. Maybe not their master series, the A9i. Is that what it is? Or
A9S, the A9,
A9S.
or the A9, just A9.
Just A9, right?
Right.
I think they should have added another TV,
Or
right?
they could have pulled the Vizio and called it HDMI 2.1. What? It's got ALLM.
It's got all this
It's
stuff.
got ER 2.1.
And
But
if
it's
you
capped
guys
at 18 gigabits per second, right? It's
yeah.
got 2.1, but capped at 18. And you know how many consumers would swallow that up? It's 2.1, but capped at 18. I
Yeah.
mean, why not?
I like this. If you pay over $1,500 for a TV, you shouldn't have to compromise. Yeah. In a perfect world, but that's just not the case. And that sucks for everyone, including, Q here, including myself. Um and there's just so many options. There's so many things that can go wrong, and there's not enough time to look at all these TVs. Really. That's what I'm
Or
finding
keep up
out.
with the firmware updates, you know? One day it's great, and the next day it isn't, and then they fixed it again, and it's great again. It's everything is so tightly engineered that
Mhm.
when you fix one thing, you don't realize that that was there for a reason to fix something else, but you're disabling it, now causing this
Something
chain
else to
effect,
go
right?
wrong.
Yeah.
One asked about a TCL 6 series issues getting into expert picture mode. I haven't gotten in there yet, but I have it right here on the floor, and I will be trying to calibrate it soon because I do need to move on to a different TV. So I will let you know. Definitely, I know you're already a subscriber, but keep your eye out for that. And yeah, I'll be diving in there. And there was something. Oh, look, the X900H doesn't have VRR.
Not yet.
Not
Not
yet.
yet.
They
It's been
finally they got 4K 120, right?
they've got clearer text on 4K 120. So 4K 120 got to work, and then people are complaining that it's blurry text. And so the most recent update cleared up the text, but it's still a little blurry compared to
Mhm.
some other TVs, so they're still working on that. And VRR, we don't know when it's coming, but Sony says, "Hold on, it is coming eventually."
I see. I see. Looks like the BL Swagger's A9G had an update today, and he hates the new menu structure. You know, I heard that they got a new situation, but I don't have any Sony's in right now to see.
Oh, I'll have to update
That'd be
my
interesting.
A9G. I'll check it out, but they're probably updating it to the current Android A8H or 900H system.
Oh,
Some
really?
people like it, some people don't. Yeah, but can't stop it unless you unplug your TV from the internet.
Yeah. 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 No, totally. But Darian, great question. How do you make HDMI 2.1 console, but not an HDMI 2.1 OLED? The best part about it is Sony's marketing team was like, these are the PS5 ready TVs that Sony makes. And when the console came out, they weren't ready. those
Oh,
those
wait.
PS5 ready TVs
The
weren't ready.
PS the PS5 wasn't ready either.
Yeah,
VRR
well,
is not working on the PS5.
no, that's true.
So
And no, somebody else asked about 1440p 120. No, it doesn't do that.
Nope. And
Um,
it may never, by the way. It doesn't Sony never promised it would be
no, yeah,
1440p.
they didn't.
Yeah. 1440p is definitely a PC thing, and Series X is like a PC origin story, so it makes sense that the Series X supports 1440p, but Sony, like 1440p, like TVs don't do 1440p anyway. Why do you
Right,
want it? Only the TCL and maybe the LG, very few TVs support 1440p, and Sony knows that. And they're like, even our TVs don't support it, so why should our console?
right. Um, uh, arrogance. That's about it. That's why they did it. So, Ty Williams, yep, these companies are so focused on being the first to market, they forgot to be best to market. Exactly. And then what do we do as consumers? We still buy the stupid shit.
Mhm.
So it's
Well, 'cause
like,
you listen to Best Buy guy, "Oh, yeah, this TV's got
oh
everything."
yeah,
Some
it's got
people
everything. Yeah.
"What?" Yeah.
Um, all right. So there's this other thing that Phil and I were talking about. I haven't now, I'm totally putting FOMO on the spot here because he has no idea I'm just gonna ask him about this.
Let's do it.
Let's switch this to VRR. Okay. Variable refresh rate. What
Mhm.
what what does variable refresh rate do?
Oh, yes, the ongoing debate. So variable refresh rate is on the TV side, right? Their refresh rate matches what your frame rate for your game is. So let's say normally it's 60 or 120 or whatever. That's the locked in refresh rate, but your games are not always at 60 frames per second or 120 frames per second. Depending on the game, it goes from 48 to 60 to 70, back down again, up and down. So variable refresh rate, the TV, its refresh matches the frame rate of your game, and that allows it to be a perfect one-to-one match, which means no tearing or stuttering, right? Because it's matched. So variable refresh rate, the
So
TV
so
has
you're
to talk to
saying
the
that the
console to do
TV
that.
does so the TV doesn't have a fixed native refresh rate.
If it has VRR, it's no longer fixed. It's jumping up and down to
Ah,
match with the console. So the issue is, and whether it's the console or graphics card, that communication has to be very well done, right? And not all TVs
uh-huh.
or monitors are created equal. Some TVs do VRR better than others. It's like just because the TV says HDR, it doesn't mean it's good HDR, right? It could be bad HDR. And same with VRR. Just because it has VRR, it doesn't mean there won't be tearing, there won't be stuttering. It could be worse, right? You can have
So wouldn't the TV have to have a faster processor to keep up with the computation,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So because that's what we were talking about.
Mhm.
Let's if you have a 60 hertz panel, right? And you're playing 30 frame per second content, you're seeing 30 frames twice, right? You're seeing each frame for 2 seconds, right? It's showing you 2 because
Uh-huh.
the
The
content
TV,
is 30 frames per second.
right.
The refresh rate on the TV is 60.
Mhm.
So, but when we get to like, 60 frame per second content, 60 hertz refresh rate, you're seeing 1 frame per second.
Right.
Right? And when we get into 120, so if you're at 120 hertz and you're at panel and you're at a 60 frame per second content, you're seeing um,
Twice.
Yeah, one frame twice. Now, if you're down to 30, you're seeing one frame 4 times,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
So I was thinking like, okay, so if the content is variable and the panel is fixed, now it's got to do all kinds of crazy math when you're at like 112 or 89 or
And
65.
and that's where AMD certification comes in,
Mhm.
supposedly. They
Ah,
bring your TV in, and if it's gonna be FreeSync certified, it better work with the FreeSync console or card so that the TV can keep up with that signaling back and forth. "Hey, I'm at, you know, 45 frames per second. Where are you?" "Well, I'm at 45 too," or whatever, right?
mhm,
Whatever the refresh rate, is it keeping up with the signal from the FreeSync source so that it's a what they say, tear-free, stutter-free,
right,
smooth gaming
right.
experience, and there's a minimum, right? I mean, it's not gonna be perfect, but does it meet that minimum? If it does, they get FreeSync certification. If it doesn't, well, then you got VRR at least. And is it better than nothing? Well, we don't know. We haven't seen bad VRR yet, so that remains to be seen.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, I would think that with the way it all works and how much money goes involved into, I mean, would you say that a less expensive TV's VRR would not be as effective as a more expensive TV?
I would
Right?
say so. I would
Yeah,
say
because it's all about the processor that has to like do
mhm.
all these computations just for the VRR, let
But
alone everything else, right?
and then you have Samsung, which charges a lot of money for their FreeSync premium, and their VR sucks. Easily one of the worst VRR experience. Everyone who has a Samsung knows that you don't have VRR on with HDR. It's a nightmare. You
Mhm,
choose one or the other, right? No HDR, VR is okay. But if you have VRR and HDR, you got ghosting, inverse ghost. I mean, it's not even worth watching. So Samsung's been at this longer than anyone else in terms of their VRR. It's been out and they haven't fixed it.
mhm.
So
Yeah,
and you pay a lot for Samsung. So it
yeah.
doesn't mean that it actually works, even if you pay for it.
Again, no matter how much you pay for a TV, there's always gonna be something wrong with it. It's not gonna be perfect. Dear, great question. Normally 50 frame per second TV, that's in a different part of the world. That's usually PAL, right?
Well, I know it's UK, Europe.
UK? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I think PAL, so Japan, yeah. PAL 150.
And here in the United States, it's NTSC, so it's 60
Yes.
frames per second or 60 hertz. That's just the way it's always been. So,
Mhm.
I don't know exactly the history
I don't
about
either.
all that. Yeah, but Ike says that he should just save up for a projector. That's definitely a thing. 50 frames per second. Yeah, that's in the UK. Um, but yeah, it comes to like there's all this new technology. We don't know what works with what. We don't know how well TVA will work with technology B. And like I'm going back to it. I'm going back to it, FOMO. Just save your money and don't buy a TV unless your TV is broken. Buy something sensible. Don't worry about the high crazy frame rate gaming stuff. If you are like, if that's what you want to do, and by all means, there are some good options. And even we're kind of distant on Samsung and Vizio. Sony, we dissed on them. Let's diss on LG a little bit.
Mhm.
I have the 2019 E9, which is equivalent to the C9 in every way. It's just mine has the fancy like glass thing, which looks super sexy, especially on my glass and metal TV stand. That's really why I got
Yeah,
it.
I've seen it. It looks nice.
Yeah, I know it's pretty awesome. So, um, we got 4 HDMI 2.1 ports uncapped, so 40 full bandwidth, 48 gigabits per second. So what did LG do to screw over 2019 users? Simple. No FreeSync. No FreeSync support.
That's right.
So that's the
Yeah.
biggest difference between the 2020 LG OLED and the 2019 is that we get full 48 gigabit bandwidth HDMI 2.1 ports, but we don't get FreeSync support. So that's kind of lame.
And
LG.
and
Like
you bring
that's
up
like they need to sell you something new every year, right?
And that's what I'm wondering is there a difference between VRR and FreeSync support? Because Series X does both, right? If you don't have
Yeah.
FreeSync, they still give you VRR.
Well, isn't that like generic
Right.
versus like premium, whatever it
So
is,
the
you know?
history of VR is like AMD came up with this whole VRR thing, and it worked with HDMI organization to set up the VRR. So when you have FreeSync, it just means that AMD has put it through its own certification process to work to its standards, but it's really the same technology as the Forum VRR. It's both derived from AMD's core technology. And G-Sync compatible is just saying that the G-Sync card is now compatible with VRR. It doesn't bring anything new to the table at
Mm,
all.
interesting.
It just means that your card sees the TV because the TV is saying, "Hey, we're VRR," and the
Yeah.
card's saying, "Oh, okay, we could," but you could force the card to do VRR, a G-Sync card, and it's supposed to work anyway. That doesn't
Mhm.
mean much. And so it shouldn't make a big difference if it's not FreeSync, but I don't know why AMD would not give it certification unless LG doesn't want to pay for the
Mm,
certification.
gotcha.
So it's not necessarily an upgrade per se. It may be we don't want to pay for AMD to certify
So
because
then
it's already been
so
sold.
then and then but we do the 2019s,
It
do have G-Sync support.
because they're still selling it. They're still making money off of it, right? So they've priced
So,
that in to the sale.
would it be right in saying, like, one of the best gaming TVs in 2020 are the 2019 LG OLEDs?
Absolutely. If
My
you could find one, if you could find
my
one.
my dumb luck. I was just like, "Hey, it's got 4 HDMI 2.1 ports. I'll need this to, check out these consoles," and so I bought it last year just on that, and I lucked out. So, I know I talked to, Robert at Value Electronics, and he's like, "No, we don't have any C9s," because I was actually going to get a 77-inch C9 because I really want a little bit bigger, screen, and I'm afraid to get another OLED because mine has got 850 nits of peak brightness, which is
Oh, that's bright.
they said it was unnaturally bright
That is
because
unnaturally bright.
the crew at Value Electronics did the calibration before they sent it to me, right?
Mhm.
And so I measured it with my calibration stuff, and I was just like 850. Whoa, this is nuts.
You won the panel lottery. Most people lose the panel lottery. You won.
No, and I don't want to like get another TV, but I want to get another TV, but I'm like, damn, like
Yeah.
it, I measured the A8H OLED that I had in house, and that came out at 680. So closer to that 700-ish,
Mhm.
number.
Right.
Haven't measured the Vizio OLED just yet. Need to get on with that, but yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, won the lottery, 850 nits on
Yep.
an OLED, which is nuts. But yeah, it's one of those things. I just got lucky. Like my dumbass just bought the TV at the right time. Like,
Man.
it's funny stuff, man. Funny stuff. Like, and I wish everybody else could, have access to these tools to like measure. I know the
Or
cheapest colorimeter is
maybe
like,
ignorance is bliss. You know how many unhappy people would be, right? If
yeah.
they wait, it looks great, and then they find out, wait, it's only 600 nits. What the hell?
Well,
And then
see,
suddenly, it's like,
here's the thing. Like, okay, Q9. Did you have a Q90T?
no, I've brought in for testing, and it was like I'll have to go with the Q90 TS because Q90T just didn't do it for me. It wouldn't be worthwhile because it was worse than the Q90R, and I don't
So
want to get a worse
right,
TV.
okay, right. It was like more like the Q80R,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. That's what it
It was
was.
like down a level. Hey, what's
Mm.
up, D-Tasker? What's going on? So gosh, what was I gonna say? Oh, right. Okay, so quality control. My Q90T measured in. Okay, so Digital Trends and Artings, their Q90Ts peak brightness around 1100. Mine came in at 1500. Where's the quality control there? Like
Wow.
that is wildly. That's not like, oh, that's cool. No, that's just like, whoa. Why
Yeah.
is this 400 nits brighter than any other of the TVs that I've seen people actually measure? Like
Mhm.
that's a little weird. And I noticed it in the bedroom watching like dark, watching in dark. I'm just like, damn, this shit bright.
Right.
Like like too much,
Yeah,
right?
1100 is really low actually for the Q90T. It should be where you are, or if not higher. And
Really,
wow, because
that's crazy.
some people were
That's
getting like
crazy.
1700, 1600. It
Wow.
is brighter than the Q90R, and the Q90R
So
got pretty bright.
so what does that say about if the same TV is getting measured at 1100 nits and then 1700 nits? Like that is just
A huge.
huge difference.
Yeah.
I noticed, okay, so even though the Sony A8H came in at 600 nits peak brightness, and everybody says you need 1000 nits for a good HDR experience, in my darkish bedroom, I was not missing anything.
Mhm.
Not at all. Not
I
at
agree
all.
with you. I agree with you.
And I think that
Because it's an OLED. You're talking about the OLED or the Q90T?
no, I'm talking about the Sony A8.
A8, the OLED,
I
yeah.
actually had both those TVs in at the same month, right? So
Mhm.
I was like going back and forth. It's a pain in my ass, dude. I tell you, switching TVs, and then my wife, she's always like, why is the remote changed? Where are my apps and this that and the other?
Well, we talked about this in our, last podcast with the other guys, right?
Mhm.
Where if you're watching a movie, whether it's Netflix or off of Blu-ray, and your TV is properly calibrated, if the Blu-ray is saying, "This only gets to 200 nits," well, why should your TV be at 1700? The Blu-ray itself, the data is saying 200, so the TV is gonna stay at 200. So if you pay extra for a Q90T thinking it'll be brighter, but you're watching content, HDR content, where the scene is asking for only 200, both TVs look identical. It's only in those movies where the scene says, "I need 1200 nits." Then
Mhm.
maybe the Q90T rises, and there's literally 4 movies, maybe, that has
Right,
scenes that will break
right.
1,000 nits. Most scenes are under 700 nits, and so that's why OLED looks awesome, because it is hitting most content, whether it's Netflix or 4K Blu-ray or whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think so when I was judging the TVs at the 4K TV shootout last year, right?
Mhm,
You know, 4 TVs are there, Z9, Sony LED, Q90R, A9G, C9 OLED, right? And
mhm.
then in between the Samsung and the LG was the BVM, the reference monitor, right?
Ah,
It's a
right, right. The
whatever,
20
it's
$25,000 Sony
yeah, like
Magnus, yeah.
15-inch OLED or whatever. Um, so now if you guys don't know, like with HDR, basically when you cross over the threshold of what the TV can do HDR wise in regards to peak brightness, right? So let's say the content is at 1,000 and you have the Sony A8H OLED that's only at 680. That difference, okay, now we have like what is it, 680? What's the math on it? 320 nits were of peak brightness that we're missing, right? What happens is Sony's TV takes over and tries to do what's commonly known as tone mapping, right? So the main difference with all of these TVs from LG, Sony, Samsung, and even the cheaper brands, they implement the tone mapping in a different way.
Mhm.
And that is the biggest thing. Like if you guys are always trying to find the difference, it's very hard to have an apples to apples comparison because the Sony is going to tone map for more accurate colors.
Yep,
The
and that's why they're
Samsung,
cheaper. Yep.
right? Samsung's going to tone map to make sure it's bright as fuck. Like these are the differences, and it's so hard to judge the TVs because of the way they handle their tone mapping differently.
You bring a good point about Samsung. It's even worse than that because tone mapping, you're saying if it's too bright, they bring it down to what the TV can handle. So what Samsung does, and you're going to see this when you're calibrating, is
Yes,
even when it's
Kona.
asking for less brightness, Samsung pumps it up beyond.
Let's go. Let's
So
get him.
it's
Let's
only
punch
asking
him
for
right.
right,
Yeah.
it's only asking for 200 nits, but you know what? I'm gonna make it 250 so that my TV looks better than, and that's artificially pumping up specular highlights that aren't supposed to be at 800. It's supposed to be only 500. So the Sony does it right because the content's asking for 5. Samsung's like forget you, I'm gonna pump it at 700. And then people are like, oh, Samsung looks better because no, the content was only asking for 5 and Samsung's pumping it up. And that's why Vincent To is always complaining, damn it, Samsung, why don't you ever follow the EOTF curve? The EOTF curve is exactly what the metadata is asking. Samsung doesn't even allow you to calibrate it down. They're just pushing it up. Even calibrated, you cannot get it down to the EOTF curve. And
dude,
that's what that means.
I got it that way, bro.
Oh,
I got it.
the Q90T allows you this year. Last year they didn't, but you're seeing it this year. And I bet you Samsung's like, you know what? Maybe next year we should pump it up again.
It's funny because I got cinema and filmmaker mode like perfectly dead on reference level color and luminance. I calibrated game mode and it looked, and I got it to, got everything where it needed to be, and it looked like ass. And like I had to bump up the gamma just to make it playable and like look good. So
they have their own tone mapping. My calibrator, I asked him, hey, can you calibrate my game mode as well? He's like, won't touch it. It is completely different curve. I don't know what they're doing. He was like, we tried it before. It looks like garbage.
It's like off the charts bad. I wish I was on my other computer so I can show you guys like just how bad the measurement was on game mode on the Samsung. Surprisingly, game mode on the Sony is pretty accurate out of the box on that OLED. So interesting stuff. Why is the 48-inch? Oh, BL Swagger, dude. I watch my OLED at extreme angle. Like I think I'm like over 100 degrees when I'm sitting at the dining table. I'm at the worst spot. When we're all sitting on the couch, my teenager's in the worst spot. I'm in the best spot. So when it matters, I'm sitting in the best place.
Well, someone was asking about why the 48-inch was more expensive. So 3 factories make the 55-inch, and only 1 factory makes both the 77-inch and the 48. So you're splitting between 2 different sizes, supply and demand. So now that they're ramping up 48-inch, it should go down. But right now, you're really restricted in the number of 48-inch panels that's globally available. That's all.
Yeah. Ryan, great question. And I think let's just kind of talk on this and end the stream because we're over an hour. I know you have.
That's right. You have to go.
I have to sleep because
you do.
I woke up today at 8 a.m., got my workout at 8:30 a.m. to 9-ish, and then been doing stuff all day. I got to go to work at 11 p.m. and be there till 7 a.m. So I'm not going to go to sleep until 9 a.m. So I'm almost at a full 24-hour day. So I'm going to take a 2-hour nap. And this happens every Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen. This happens every Tuesday. And actually, I was up earlier because it snowed and the stupid snowplow was plowing snow at 5 a.m. So I was up at that point in time for another hour. So,
I was prepping early. I go, did you just text me at 5 a.m? You're up already? I'm like, oh, that's why you have a graveyard, right? Like, oh man.
I wasn't on graveyard last night. I was just awake because of the stupid snowplow. Oh man, crazy. Yeah, my crazy my crazy Vita, right? Is that Michelle and Alexandria, thank you for the super sticker. I was given just to recap for the people that are here, I was given bad information from Vizio, Vincent To. He tested it. I tested it with the Xbox. Only 2 HDMI 2.1 ports on the Vizio H1 OLED. It's HDMI 2 and 3. If you try to use HDMI 1 and 4, they might say it's an HDMI 2.1 port, but it acts a hell of a lot like an HDMI 2.0B port. So that's kind of like that. We're gonna try one more topic. Where was this question? Or where was it?
2021 manufacturer, TV manufacturer.
Okay, Ryan, great question. What can we expect from the 2021 TV manufacturers? Well, I have my ideas. FOMO, you're the guest. Go ahead.
I'll jump in with the biggie. Samsung is revamping its entire lineup at the high end. So we're talking maybe anything above 2,000, 1,500, let's say. Mini LED, right? That's their thing. So we're going to see a lot of mini LEDs from Samsung. I'm hoping it's active matrix, so we don't have the black crushing and the blooming that you're seeing on the TCL when you watch, was it Ozark?
Oh, man.
I think of you every time I watch that. I'm like, you know what?
I'm going to have to...
and LG too. They're doing mini LED
You know
finally.
what's funny? I made this correlation the other day. When you buy a TV that isn't as fancy, and it's totally cool, you know, your budget allows. It's like buying a car.
Mhm,
You know, you wanted that sports car, but you couldn't get it. So you got the lower end one, but you can mod it, right?
mhm.
You can put on an exhaust, air filter, you know, short throw, Momo, do all this stuff to make it feel like that. So I was thinking, you know, I just tried out the AI upscaler in the NVIDIA Shield TV Pro. And man, oh man, when you have a TV like a TCL or you know, when you're watching 1080i stuff, like we watch a lot of stuff on Hulu,
Mhm.
and man, that AI upscaler is a huge deal. So now imagine instead of using the internal apps on the TV, you use that with the AI upscaler. Now you're kind of modding your lower end TV to get a picture like your higher end TV because um you know the AI upscaler or sorry the upscaler in general I noticed in the Vizio, you know, watching 1080i or whatever
Yeah.
content not so great.
Nope.
You know, built-in apps on some of the lower end TVs, budget level TVs not so great, but you get something like this
Yeah.
and things look better. And I was actually, you know, that it does the little demo mode, so you do the line, right? And man, even on my E9 OLED, I was like, damn, Carson Daly. We were watching The Voice. Carson Daly looks crazy sharp.
Oh,
You
wow.
know, it adds it when they're doing those big panning shots, though, it does add a little bit of jutter,
Stutter, right?
some 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 blocking, you know, because it's trying to sharpen the edges, right? So if you put it on like the high, medium or like the low, looks really good, especially if it's a lot of talking and stuff like that. Even the like Love Island, the like crappy dating reality show we watch, like the girls, like they look good when it's softer, and then when it use the AI upscaler, like,
No!
oh, their makeup looks like ass. Anyway, let's continue on. That was a little side situation that I kind of came to yesterday. But go ahead.
Oh, so
2021 TVs.
2021, Samsung mini LEDs and LG will be mini LED, but of course, first generation product, as we know from both of those guys, they've never done mini LED before. They haven't done PC monitors in mini LED either. So this is their first attempt at it. It remains to be seen how well they do because the processing and will VRR work on a mini LED with what they're not doing so well with VRR anyway. So I think I don't even know what to expect, honestly. It'll be brighter, I'll tell you that. That's the
Yeah,
one thing it will do. It will be brighter, but will it be better? Better darkroom performance? Yeah, we'll see.
yeah,
And
yeah.
Hisense dual cell, so that'll be exciting.
Mhm.
75-inch dual cell coming to the US, Hisense. Hopefully, it's cheaper than a 75-inch OLED. So with those with a budget around 2,000, I'm hoping it comes in at 2,000, 75-inch dual cell, so we'll see. And TCL, much of the same, probably more mini LED. Hopefully, they work out the software to address the lifted blacks and some of that
Mhm.
blooming that you've been seeing. And Sony, I don't even know what Sony is gonna do. They've always disappointed me. All this great technology, and they don't embrace any of it. They really take their time. So that's good and bad, but we'll see where Sony
Mhm.
goes.
Yeah, yeah. You know, honestly, like Ike said, and he made a joke about it. Um, one extra HDMI 2.1 port. the chances are, I would hope that all these manufacturers would put four. If their TV has four HDMI ports, all of them be 2.1, like
Mhm.
at very minimum 40 gigabit per second bandwidth, like LG's done. But chances are they want to make sure you got to buy a new TV the next 2 years. So
One per year, right?
yeah, they're gonna add one more port next year. You know, 2022, they'll add two more ports. Um, Roland Allen Jr. Why won't Panasonic sell their OLED here? Well, guess what? You
Ah,
know what I'm about to say?
I know what you're about to say. I'm very
All
excited.
right. All right, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if it's here on their front page, but I will just
It
drop
is.
it.
It is.
Panasonic OLED. You can buy it at Value Electronics.
Hey, and can I plug real quick? I'm
Yeah,
gonna
go for it.
have Robert on Friday to talk about that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, so on
Awesome.
Friday,
Robert's
we'll
a great
talk about how you're gonna get it, how much, all that good stuff. But yeah, I'm so excited. When I saw that, I was like, Robert, put me on the list. I'm replacing my A9G with whatever you got coming this year.
Yep.
Yep. And I think they're the exclusive. They're the only retailers
They're
that
the
have
only this is the only place you can get a Panasonic OLED
the good
in the
stuff.
United States.
And it's specifically, they specifically are working with Hollywood calibrators and specs. So these TVs are spec'd to reference. This means that if you get this TV, this is exactly how it should be. This is the creator's intent right here. So for me, it's important so I can tell you guys, hey, this TV is consistent with
There it
creator's
is.
intent or not. Yep, there it is. So we'll see. And it's not cheap, right? Saw the prices right there. It's not cheap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, almost 3,000 for a 55-inch.
I mean, this is professional stuff, guys. So it's not, and it doesn't have HDMI 2.1. It doesn't have EARC. I mean, this is pure visual HDR. It's not for gaming, but it's if you want the creator's intent and you want almost 1,000 nits of brightness, the GZ2000 will be coming, and we'll talk to Robert about when it'll come and all the good stuff. But I'm excited. I'm so excited about the Panasonic's coming.
Yeah. There was this place I called in Irvine, California.
Ooh.
Of course, you're in California, you know
Yeah,
Irvine.
my neck of the woods.
Yep. Yeah, not 8K. Yeah, I don't know, Mike. It's just one of those things, dude. This is one of those things. We're just getting screwed left and right. So I call this place because they sell the Panasonic OLEDs to the to that production houses in Hollywood. And I was like, would you guys sell me one? I review TVs for my YouTube channel. And he at first said yes. And then he kind of was just like, oh, are you going to make a YouTube video about this? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to calibrate it. I'm going to show everybody what it's about and probably tell them where I got it. And he's just like, yeah, okay, we can't do that. I can't. I'll get in trouble for selling you this TV.
Yep. Yeah.
And they wanted like $5,000 for a 65-inch, you know.
And this is because Panasonic, people have a certain exclusive rights in certain regions, and he may not have it. So there's no support, there's no warranty, there's nothing. So it's very gray market. And when it's gray market, people don't want to know, don't want the public to know where they got it and so forth. It's got to be on the down low when it comes to these things. But with Robert, it's now warranted and everything.
Yeah, I think it's a cool step for Panasonic to get back into TV sales here. My last Panasonic was the VT OLED, which was the Kuro killer, or sorry, VT Plasma. But yeah, I'd be excited to check it out, but not for that price. That's all you, bro. You're over here dropping $5,000 on TVs like it's nothing.
I'm still regretting that. It's good, but $5,000 good. You know what? That had to be seen. It's 8K, right?
I know one of the other questions was if we were to choose a TV for movie watching, which one would you choose?
Movie watching TV, because I watch in a dark room. Normally, it's a Sony because of the color accuracy. I like how they don't clip; they bring everything down. And in a brighter room, it wouldn't be a Sony, but in a dark room environment, almost any Sony model is going to be awesome, especially their OLEDs. So that would be me.
I would go with an A8H 55-inch in my bedroom. In fact, even after going with all these TVs that have been through here this year, which isn't that many because I wanted to learn how to calibrate the TVs first before I got a bunch of them in. I would go with the Sony, even though majority of my gaming happens in the bedroom,
Right.
and I just don't need 4K 120 for the Series X.
Oh, wait a minute. Speaking of Robert, it's not the Sony anymore. It would be the Panasonic GC2000.
Oh, there you go.
I forgot. Now that it's available.
There you go. Well, I mean, for that price, I wouldn't pay that price.
No, let's say cost no object just for the best TV. You couldn't do better than the Panasonic GZ2000, short of a $30,000.
I mean, the GZ1000 55-inch is $3,200.
I know.
So $30,000 for a 55-inch TV. Damn.
Yeah. Crazy.
I'll drop $5,000 on a house before a TV. Exactly. I heard the Plasma 2, or I had the Plasma 2. I will have the OLED. Yeah, no problem. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, TV, manufacturers like to mess around with you.
Mhm,
You know, they're out to make money
mhm,
every year.
mhm.
So be careful out there, people. Make sure what did I say in my other video? Make sure you know what you're buying before you buy it.
And if it says HDMI 2.1, run the way. Just
Run
run
away. Run away. Run
ignore
away.
it, just cross it out. HDMI
Yeah.
2.1, not important.
Yeah. Not I mean it look, if you really want to, you got your heart set on it, go for it.
Mhm.
Just know that it's not going to be perfect. Okay. Just know it's not going to be perfect. Do your research. Exactly. Definitely check out FOMO's channel if you haven't already. If you don't know who he is, check out his channel.
Stop.
Oh, damn it. You know what? I was cleaning up around here and I found some of my snowboarding gloves and I was just like, oh, it'd be great if I just have my snowboarding gloves on and be like, yo, just because you're here. But I totally fucked that one up.
Yeah.
I can't even find them now. It would have been hilarious. Hilarious. Oh man. But yeah, hey, thank you so much for being
Thank
on.
you.
I know this is a lot to talk about. And yes, they jerked us around this year. And Michael, yes, 100%, 100%. And that's why I said to wait. I know a lot of people couldn't wait, and they just want to, they want the best thing that they can get for their money, right?
Yep.
That's it.
Michael.
And what's that?
He tweets me all the time. Hey, Michael, I had to give him that quick shout out. He's
Oh,
like,
okay.
we have an ongoing conversation on Twitter about HDMI 2.1 and the nightmares that go out there.
Right on, Ron Star. Thank you so much for coming in. Yeah, and that was funny because like somebody was all pissed off that I said that the Vizio only had two HDMI 2.1 ports. He went to Twitter, talked to Vizio, got an answer from them. He screenshotted that to me and sent it to me saying like, "Oh my gosh, like, no, you're wrong." And like, yeah, I'm totally cool saying I'm wrong. I made a video about it once I got this wrong information. And then now I have everything here to test, it's all good. Hey, no problem. No problem, Ike. Bottom line is poor Vizio doesn't even know what they have. Yeah, the Vizio H1 OLED has two HDMI 2.1 ports verified by myself and my Xbox Series X. Vincent Tio verified it. 4 lanes, 10 gigabits per second. So they're capped at 40 gigabits per second. Even though all their marketing materials says it has 4 HDMI 2.1 ports, 2 of them are 48 gigabits per second uncapped, and the other 2 are capped at 40. That's not 100% correct. All right.
Things change. Who knows? Maybe they'll make it 48 in a year. Who knows? But right now, it's no.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you for all your questions. Big thanks to you, FOMO.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
I hit the right one. That's
all right.
Ladies and gentlemen, FOMO. Have a great one, and we'll